All right, so welcome to the free training by SINOP Investments Limited. My name is Evelyn Anama Asari, and as most of you have seen on the flyer, today we are going to be training you on effective communication in business. And I'll be doing this training alongside my colleague Emmanuel Buedu. So we'll start the training. The training is in two parts. As you might have seen on the flyer, the training is in two parts. So I want us all to keep ourselves muted so we do not interrupt the session while the training is ongoing. And then I want all of us to pay attention to every single thing that goes on during the training. Yes. So welcome once again. I hope everyone can hear me. If you can hear me, kindly type in the chat. Thank you to Obed. Kindly type in the chat if you can hear me loud and clearly before we begin the session. Okay, great. Thank you very much. I'm glad you can all hear me. So we are now going to start with the first part of the session. Yes. So I hope we are all having a lovely evening. So today we are going to discuss communication. So before I start, let's look at the objectives of this training. So the objectives are to discuss how to communicate effectively, to introduce you to Aristotle's model of communication, to discuss how to implement Aristotle's model in your business, and to discuss building good customer relationships. And for the first session, we'll be focusing on discussing how to communicate effectively and introducing you to Aristotle's model of communication. Now, what is communication? As simple as it is, it's the act of transferring information from one place, person, or group to another. How do we communicate? We communicate by talking, using symbols, signs and symbols, writing, drawing, coding, and many other ways of communication. Now, there are modes of communication. There are different ways in which we communicate every day. So we have verbal communication. And what is verbal communication? It has to do with our engagement with one another, be it face-to-face, over the telephone, or via Zoom, like we are doing right now. So right now, we are communicating online via Zoom. So it is verbal communication. You can hear my voice. Then we have written communication. Written communication has to do with text messages we send, sending an email, writing a report, writing a letter, and even when you write and post something on social media, Facebook or Instagram, it's written communication. Then we have listening. Now, listening is one of the most disregarded forms of communication, and I'm sure you all agree with what I'm saying. Listening is a form of communication that we have sort of sidelined, especially in our part of the world, in Ghana. It's very important that you listen attentively, and then you listen with rapt attention. And then after that, you process, and then you give feedback. So it aids communication. It makes the flow of communication easier and better. So who do we communicate with every day? Every day, we communicate with people. We communicate with our family, our friends, religious leaders. We communicate with colleagues, visitors, and even on social media. We communicate with people. When people post information, you comment. That is communication, written communication. And I hope we are getting it. If you don't understand something and you want me to go back, kindly raise your hand or type in the comment section so we can quickly go back and then take a look at it for your understanding, because this is a training and our goal is to help you understand and better your skills. So I hope we all understand so far. How is it going? Do we understand so far what we've looked at? Okay, so I'll take it that we all understand and we are making headway. Yes. So back to where we got to who we communicate. Now I'm going to take us through some tools of communication. And these are things that we use to communicate every single day. And I choose to call them the tools of communication, because it is through these things that we are able to send information across to whoever we want to send the information to. Now, we have words. We have vocal tones, and we have our facial expressions and our body language. Words are very important in communication. So whatever we say, right now I am talking to you. So if I say, hello, Kojo, how are you? That statement, hello, Kojo, how are you, has words. It has a tone, my vocal tone, how I said those words. It has a facial expression that comes with it. It has body language, how I went about saying it using my body or my facial expression. And for words form 7%. I'm using the percentages to just show you the composition. Vocal tone plays a very important role, forming 33%, and facial expression and body language forming 60%. But this varies because in written communication, people get your tone from reading what you have written and also paying attention to the choice of words that you are using. So for example, I'm going to say hello, Kojo, again, and I want you to pay critical attention and paying attention to using the tools I have just enumerated to you. Just type it in the chat whether I sound angry or happy. So, hello, Kojo. Hello, Kojo. How are you doing? Do I sound happy or angry? Okay, Obed says happy. I'm waiting for another response. Hello, Kojo. How are you doing? Am I happy or angry? Okay, so Gabriel says good. So what? Okay, Dede says indifferent. You see? So do you see the variation? Now, this tells us that the way we communicate would vary depending on whoever we communicate with. And that's one thing about communication. So your tone, your vocal, your facial expression might be different for whoever you talk to. Yes, but that is one thing that that's one thing these tools are here to guide you and direct you on. So I'm going to say, hello, Kojo, how are you again? And then we are going to talk about how I sound. Hello, Kojo, how are you? Am I angry? Am I happy? Am I upset? Okay. Obed says rude. I'm waiting for a comment from someone who hasn't commented. Hello, Kojo, how are you? Obed says rude. Do you think I'm happy? Do you think I'm sad? Okay, so since someone, Ima says, you sound annoyed. All right, I sound annoyed. You see? So the tone contributes to how your words would be taken. So however you want someone to take your words, you have to use the right tone. Then your facial expression also accompanies your words and it builds up your communication. So these tools of communication shouldn't be taken for granted at all. Now we'll move on to Aristotle's models of communication. So having spoken about the tone, about your words, about your facial expression and your body language, now we are going to delve into Aristotle's models. Now, these models are the very things, the very components that will help you to shape your communication in a manner that will help you to be able to get the meaning that you want your listener to get across to the listener. So the meaning that you want your listener to get, that is what ethos, pathos, and logos is going to do for you. So now let's talk about ethos, pathos, and logos. So simply put, Aristotle, a Greek philosopher, some of us may know him, and he's a personal favorite. So I'm going to be referencing him as I talk about ethos, pathos, and logos. He says that these are things that make people listen to us. It makes someone listen to you. Ethos has to do with credibility, and pathos has to do with your emotions, and logos has to do with logic. Now, these words are just simply put, they are words to symbolize the meaning of each of these terms here. Now, what exactly is pathos? What exactly is ethos, and what exactly is logos? Ethos is when you communicate to get your audience to trust you. Then pathos is when you communicate to get your audience to feel for you, to understand you from the point of their emotions, to connect with them emotionally. And then logos has to do with getting your audience to think, getting them to think, arguing based on facts, using reasons. So you give them evidence, you make it simple logic, something that when they think about, it really makes sense. There's no way they can doubt it. And I hope everyone is following at this point. If you are following, kindly type in the chat. I'm looking at the chat right now. So if you are following, give me a yes in the chat right now. If you're following, you understand where we've gotten to so far. Give me a yes in the chat right now. All right, thank you very much, Obed. Thank you very much, thank you. So I'm seeing a lot of yeses. So yes, we are following. All right, so now what is ethos? Now, ethos, I'm going to use examples to make it as simple as possible for you. So ethos is something we actually do every day in our lives. It's when you talk to someone using your credentials, making the person see that you are credible enough to do what you are saying you can do. So it's like going, for example, your company is going to pitch at an event or going to pitch to another company. And then you tell them that we know what we do at our company. All our staff are chartered accountants. They have the technical know-how to handle all the things that you need. That is credibility. You are showing some personal credentials. You're establishing the fact that your company has what it takes to fulfill that promise. And this is something our politicians use in Ghana a lot, because they let you know that, yes, I have studied here, I've had experience as a minister in so and so category, and because of that, I can man the country. So that is ethos. Now, pathos has to do with our emotions, and this happens a lot when we go to the market in Ghana, and I'm sure people who go to the market can really relate with this. So when, for example, Obed goes to the market, or for example, Dede goes to the market and she's buying something and the seller goes like, Madam, the prices have gone up. The plantain, I bought it 50 cedis and I'm even selling it to you 52 cedis. So Madam, I can't reduce the price. And we all know in Ghana, whenever you go to the market, you try to bargain to reduce the price of the product so that you can buy it at a reasonable price according to your budget. So after the market woman has told you this, you become a bit, disturbed. She'll tell you, she keep on saying it, and her profit is just 2 cedis. Eventually, you would feel, pity for her. You feel the connection. I don't want to use the word pity per se, but you feel for her. You have a connection and say, oh, let me just buy it so I should get her profits like that. And eventually, what do? You buy it. And that is pathos. She has been able to convince you get you to do what she wanted and communicate with you as well. And you have done it. Now let's move on to logos. Logos has to do with logic, simply. And this is something that we use a lot, especially in writing. For our students, especially for students, when you are writing an essay or for your IA or for your assignment, most of the time you write and then you put some information by a researcher or by an organization. So for example, according to Plato in 1986, this and that and that and that happened. So you are giving your reader evidence. You are giving your reader something that there's nothing else that can challenge it. Like, this is fact, this is true. Another thing too is when you are able to talk to whoever you're communicating with an analogy, and you tell the person 1 + 1 is 2. When you have one mango and you have another mango and you put them in the basket, you have 2 mangoes. So that is logic. And there's no way the person can doubt what you are saying. So these 3 elements are ethos, pathos, and logos. And they play a very critical role in our communication. They reinforce one another because you can't leave one without the other. It's good to know how to have power over ethos. And that is why I'm introducing them to you today, so that you have control. Because when you're conscious of something, you have the authority over it and the power to exercise it and use it well to your maximum capacity. So you should be able to use ethos, you should be able to use pathos. And don't forget that ethos, pathos, and logos have to do with, ethos has to do with credibility, pathos has to do with emotion, logos has to do with logic. Okay? And ethos is establishing your personal credentials, getting whoever is listening to you to trust your words. Pathos has to do with establishing the connection, getting your audience to feel for you, like the market woman. And logos has to do with getting your audience to think, giving them facts that they cannot deny, giving them an analogy that they can relate with and realize that this is true. Remember the 2 mangoes in the basket. So these 3 elements are very critical. And when you combine these 3 components in your speech, in your writing, in your communication, in your family, in your home, if you apply these, trust me, it will help you in communicating much better. It will help you to become a better listener, because you need to listen well to be able to apply either of these in your speech. And of course, it will make you a better leader. So at this point, this has been all for the first session. Now we will go for a short break, a break of 3 to 5 minutes. And when we come back, my colleague Emmanuel Boadu will take you through implementing ethos, pathos, and logos in our communication to aid our businesses. And he also take you through building good supplier and customer relationships. So I'm so grateful you've been through this session with me, and it's been exciting. So before we go for the short break, I'll just take 2 comments, 2 questions. So just 2 questions. It could be a comment, it could be a question. Feel free or mute yourself and then ask your question concerning what we have studied so far. Okay, so I'm waiting for 2 people to speak. I'm waiting for 2 people's comments right now. Yes. But before that, I'm still waiting on your comments and your question. Okay, feel free. If you want to type it in the chat, please feel free to type your question or your comments in the chat as well. But I'm going to introduce SINOP Investment Limited to you, because I'm sure probably this is the first time you are hearing about SINOP Investment Limited. So SINOP Investment Limited is one of the fastest growing consulting companies in Ghana. And we provide trainings like what you're taking part in. We organize trainings for various organization staff. So if you're here and you wish to have a training session like this for your staff to help them become better in any particular field you have in mind, should it be better customer service, better communication, be better in the computer IT field, ICT field, better at writing emails, you can contact SINOP Investment and we will craft a training program tailored to suit your organization and your needs as well. Again, we engage in sourcing and procurement, engineering services as well, okay?